Is for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. Never comes again, another day like yesterday. Is for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. Good morning, everybody. I want to do one, hopefully a kind of quick because I don't have tons of time. And I'm going to start with a spiritual concept and then map that onto some psychological truths. And if you're not in agreement or this is not your thing, then this might not be your episode. But we're going to start with some assumptions. And one of the assumptions we're going to start with is that consciousness, the part of being that is aware of your emotional experiences, your thoughts, your body, events, whatever, the part of you that is just a watcher, that watches and experiences, exists in an eternal now, in the infinite, meaning that it cannot inhabit the future and it cannot inhabit the past. So we're starting with the spiritual concept that this is a concept that is in Hinduism, is in Buddhism, that consciousness only exists in the infinite now. For consciousness, there is no future or past. There is no linear time. There is only the present, right? And so this is why when you meditate, a lot of the purpose of meditation is to allow the mind or the brain to spin out and do whatever it does, but to stop attaching yourself to it and to get in touch with what you really are, which is consciousness, to be conscious and to be present with your consciousness, which is weird linguistically to even say, be present with my consciousness. I am consciousness. That's silly. I am always present with my consciousness. It's just that sometimes I'm running the illusion or the delusion that I can exist as a body or I can exist as a mind or whatever. Consciousness is a priori. Consciousness is present, is ever present, is present in the only reality in which there is no time and space, right? There is no location. All of those things are merely creations of consciousness so that consciousness can experience itself and have different experiences and play out different scenarios to experience itself. Okay, so I'm positing some things that if you come from the same spiritual or philosophical bent, then you understand what I'm saying. And if you think that kind of stuff is bullshit, then right, this episode is not for you, because I'm not trying to convince you that that's true. I'm just talking to people for whom that's something that they believe is true or suspect is true. Okay, so here's how this is important, and here's how this maps onto psychology. What this means is when you, in the language of, for example, a future trip, or when you become mired in the past, let's say you made some clumsy comment at a party 10 years ago, and you're the sort of person who just can think of it and just burn with shame, and you agonize about it. Why am I such an idiot? Why do I say things like that? Oh my God. And then you start building fear out of it, like, I'm like that and I'm going to do it again and I'm going to be so embarrassed and that's probably why I lose friends. And right, so you build this big narrative, this big truth about you, and you struggle with it. Or you sit there and think, you know, things are not going very well at my job. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get fired, and man, I hate looking for a job and it's so hard for me, and maybe I'm not really as good as I think I am, and maybe I'm not going to be able to get a job, and oh crap, rent is so expensive, my savings are low, God, could I end up homeless? Right? Just future tripping. So when you spend time trying to create in your body and in your brain a future that punishes you and hurts you and makes you suffer, or you spend time in the past punishing yourself or hurting yourself or feeling bad about things that are literally no longer real, right? The only thing you have is now. even if you don't believe in the infinite now, even if you don't believe consciousness exists a priori prior to experience, the only thing you have is the present. When you think about the past, you're generating a memory of the past, and you're rebuilding the reality of it internally so that you can re-experience it. You can do that with positive things. If you think about your grandmother and you used to bake cookies with your grandmother and she was so loving and that was so much fun and you would laugh and joke and she would hug you and then you remember the smell of, like, okay, you're revisiting the past, but you are literally in the now generating a pleasant experience. You're regenerating and re-experiencing. The same way when we future trip, we're generating an illusion of something not real that probably won't happen or may not happen, or we have no idea, we don't have control over the future, but we're generating it in the now, right? So this is where the spiritual idea maps on psychologically, that even scientifically, psychologically, you can't experience anything other than in the now. You are aware of the now, period. You're only in the now, period. You've had experiences. You can regenerate the sense of those experiences. Let's say you lost a parent 2 years ago and you were very close to them, and you're really hurting, right? So there's a way that you used to experience reality where this parent was present and they hugged you and you had conversations and you could call them up and ask for advice, and in your now, that's no longer present. When you grieve it, your brain goes back and compares, well, what were experiences is in that now. In that now, there were experiences with this parent present, and I'm now experiencing now. But in order for me to grieve and to feel that something's missing, I have to regenerate what that was, compare it with what this is, and go, oh, I'm in a state of loss, and I'm grieving, and I feel sad. And if you talk to people who deal with grief and loss, sometimes as their life builds and maybe they have kids or they fill their life with other things and it becomes the norm, they will begin to remember the beautiful things, and they will generate the beautiful things and the beautiful memories, and they will actually enjoy that in the now and be glad that they knew that person and that they had that person and feel gratitude. And so the act of accessing the past and generating what that was, and then accessing your now and comparing and going, oh, my now lacks what that was, therefore I'm grieving and hurting over this situation, is still the same thing, right? We're in the eternal now. There's only now. We only have now. There is only ever now. So here comes the point, and I'm being less, I'm exploring it with less depth than I usually do. And again, it's because I don't have tons of time. I have incoming this morning, but I wanted to make this point. It was a thought that occurred to me while I was meditating the other day, that we think when we feel anxiety or depression or agitation, when we future trip, we think about some future thing and we're worried about it. It's like, oh my God. And right. So we're taking the idea of some future thing and building it in and punishing ourselves with it in the now, but it feels very agitating. And we're like, well, you're thinking negatively, and we can apply all these psychological concepts. Or we have a flashback to the past. We remember some terrible thing that happened in our childhood. We're still angry, we're still hurt. We still have these body responses. We're regenerating something that no longer exists. We're regenerating it in the now. And we can explain that as a flashback, or we can explain that as your body learned this, or your body is stuck in fight or flight because it didn't know how to let go of that and it just thinks it's safer. Whatever, psychology has explanations. Here was the download, or the idea that occurred to me while I was meditating. All of those things are surface explanations. The true explanation, what I think would be the true explanation, which is both psychological and spiritual, is that the agitation and the discomfort and the suffering that comes from those acts of future tripping or remembering something in the past, the real act of discomfort is that we have attempted to separate ourselves from ourselves. If consciousness, if I am consciousness, that's all I am. Everything else is just a body, it's just biology, it's this brain, it's this mechanism that can generate thoughts, it generates thinking, and my consciousness experiences. I am the consciousness that experiences it. I am not the thinking, I am the consciousness that experiences it. I am not the emotion, I am the consciousness that experiences the emotions. I am not the body, I am the consciousness that experiences the body. But then that brain and the body and whatever the mind tries to create realities in the future and experience them in the now, or remembers realities in the past and tries to experience them in the now. The download was, it's not about future tripping. It's not about, oh, you generated something negative or untrue, or you're like, there's a lot of psychological explanations. The truth is why wouldn't we be deeply uncomfortable? We are attempting to create a reality and inhabit it, a reality that denies our fundamental true existence. If your fundamental true existence is consciousness, and consciousness only exists in the eternal now, if you're attempting to inhabit and construct a reality that is not now, you are attempting to separate yourself from yourself, which is an inherently negating act, an act that negates your true nature. So it is an act by which you attempt to deny your own true nature. Hey, Mr. Crow. Crow landed on the branch right in front of my window. Hey, buddy, what's going on? If consciousness inheres in the now, and the now inheres in the consciousness, they're inextricable. There is only the infinite now. And consciousness can only inhabit the now. Consciousness is now, is only ever now. And I access some memory and I try to generate the experience of that thing that happened 5 years ago. I could say, oh, I'm having a flashback, it's PTSD, oh, that was a terribly painful, but I'm now, it's not happening now. So the truth is the suffering likely comes because it's an inherently it's an act that negates my true nature, because my true nature is consciousness. And consciousness inheres in the now, and the now inheres in consciousness. They're inseparable. They are the one and the same thing. The infinite now is the infinite consciousness, infinite awareness, and it is only now. So an attempt to make something in the past real again in my body and in my brain and in my mind sends this conflicted, weird message to my biology, which is only happy and at peace when it aligns with what I truly am, which is consciousness, which is the infinite now. So these things that we have psychological explanations or even biological explanations, like, oh, you were terribly traumatized, you were in fight or flight 5 years ago, and when you remember that memory network regenerates the fight or flight, and you re-experience that, and we do that to try to conquer it, or we do it to try to have a reorienting and a healing experience, like whatever. There's tons of psychological explanations, but I think the true explanation, which tracks with those psychological explanations, is spiritual, which is in the attempt to make something from the past true and in my body and in my brain again, negates my true nature, which is I am conscious, I am now. And I'm attempting to separate myself from my consciousness and from my nowness. which is why to be meditative is to discover peace and a feeling of alignment, and your brain calms and your body calms, because this biology, this system, these cells, the mitochondria, whether it's a quantum mechanics system or whether it's a Newtonian system, whether it's a biological, whatever it is, the meditative state is the state of accepting my true nature, that I live in the infinite now, I am the infinite now, I am consciousness, there is nothing else, everything is manifest from that. So to align with that is for everything to settle, come back, right? The act of attempting to activate in my biology some past thing creates agitation and suffering, because it is a denial of my true nature, which is I am the infinite now. I can only inhabit the now. You might say, well, okay, so what about when people visualize and they're like, I'm imagining this beautiful thing I'm going to build for myself, and it's going to be wonderful, and I'm going to build this house, I'm going to work really hard at my business, and I'm going to earn some money, and I'm going to purchase a house, and we're going to make it beautiful. It's going to be this beautiful thing for my family and my kids, and you feel wonderful. You're so excited. What's different about that? Isn't that separation from self? I would argue that consciousness and the infinite now, they're things that are inextricable. Consciousness is inextricably part of the infinite now. It's inextricably love. It's inextricably creativity. It's inextricably connection. So when you begin to build a mental construct of, oh, I'm channeling this for my future, and you're experiencing the pleasure of the thought of that in the now, that actually aligns with your now. You are allowing yourself to experience something that aligns with your infinite now. You're allowing yourself to experience something that aligns with your infinite now. And that's why we experience that with pleasure and with a feeling of alignment and with a feeling of excitement, rather than with distress. Now, if you become controlling and you start injecting fear, like I need to do this to make that happen, I need to do that, and like, oh, my business has been falling off, and what am I going to do? And it's because my wife or my husband hasn't been pulling their weight, and my kids probably won't appreciate it, and right? If you inject fear, which fear-based systems are systems of separation. They're the idea that you can be harmed, that you're not the infinite now, that you're some limited form that can be destroyed. Forms arise and businesses are created and then they die. Buildings are built and then they fall apart. Societies construct themselves and then they collapse. Like, this is just what the world of forms and limits is, and separations, right? But that's the illusion. That's not the real thing. So if you have that beautiful imagining of the future and you begin injecting fear in the world of limits and forms, and you try to control it, and then you start tormenting yourself with fear, you're now once again separating yourself from the infinite now. The infinite now can't be destroyed. It's the only thing that ever is. There is nothing but the infinite now. And so when you start imagining and creating and enjoying that alignment with the infinite now, and then you take the world of forms and limits and separations and fears and try to impose it on that, you're now trying to separate yourself from your true nature again. You're trying to separate yourself from your true nature again, and you start suffering again. If you're thinking about that pleasant memory of grandma and cooking with her, and it was so much love and it felt so good, and you feel that in the now, and it inspires you to want to become that, and you're like, when or if my kids have kids, I'm going to be the most amazing grandfather or grandmother, and I'm going to do the same things, and I'm just going to pour love and acceptance onto them, and you experience this great joy. It's an indication that you're in an alignment with your true self, that connection, love, creativity And an absence of fear is the true nature of consciousness. So when you bring up a memory from the past and activate it as a reality in your now, if it has the components that align with your true now, because true now is consciousness, and consciousness is love, is connection, is creativity, then you will experience your now with pleasure. You're being present with your true nature. The same way as when you meditate or you're being meditative, you're aligning with your true nature. My true nature is indestructible. It is infinite. It is consciousness. Consciousness is inextricable with love. It's inextricable with creativity, inextricable with connection, and it cannot be destroyed. It just manifests different forms and shapes in the world of limitations just so that you can play with it and enjoy it. But if you're not enjoying it, it does not align with your true self. This can get deeper. I could get more descriptive, but I have incoming, and I insisted that I make this a short episode. So I just wanted to posit a realization or a download I had when I was meditating, that to be meditative, the reason it feels peaceful is because what you truly are, your true nature, is consciousness, which is infinite and a priori to experience. It's infinite, it's indestructible, it's love, it's connection, it's all these things. So when you future trip and worry about stuff in the future, or when you bring up negative experiences in the past and recreate it in your body and your head and ruminate and get all anxious, your suffering is not because you're thinking about something unpleasant. Your suffering is because you're using the world of fear and separations to separate yourself from your true nature. It is the act of separating yourself from your true nature that creates agitation, that your body responds to with agitation, your brain responds to with agitation and suffering. When you future trip, it's not that you're worrying about things and tormenting. It is that when you impose a world of limitations and you try to make some future thing that doesn't exist in your now, you're in misalignment, you're unaligning, you're separating yourself from your true nature, which is only now. Only the now exists. And you are peace, you are joy, you are love, you are consciousness, you are creativity. So we suffer in the act of attempting to separate ourselves from our true self and pretend that something else is true. It's the act of pretending that I am not true, transcendent, indestructible consciousness in the infinite now that creates suffering and discomfort. That was my thought for today. A shorter episode. I love you guys. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.
Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay.